welcome back to test number 10 here on the Total Tactics testing series. Now, this week we're going with a user-submitted tactic. HatePorridge on Twitch and Porridge in Discord submitted this tactic to me because of the extreme offensive output to the tune of 117 goals in Serie A with Atalanta and a first-place finish over 90 points. But while I've given you a little teaser on the results, it's the tactic that is sure to impress. So let's take a look at that tactic. But before we do, remember all of the tactics are available on our Discord server for download. You can join the server with the link in the description. There is also a link in the description for a Dropbox folder where you can also download all of the tactics, including any testing databases that we do release here on the channel. A full custom testing database is on the way, and I know I've been teasing that a lot in the videos, but trust me, it is getting very close. We want it to be perfect by the time we release it to you, so be on the lookout for that. It'll be there soon. And once again, we do have a new patron this week. Official H2 has joined the Patreon as well, so now that leaves Ultra, Mate Benchik, and Official H2 as patrons to the channel. If you'd like to join that list, check out the link in the description and support me in my tactics journey. Now, without further ado, let's take a look at Porridge's tactic. All right, here it is in all its glory. 3 strikers, 2 wingers, 1 DM, and then a back 4. It is a shape that looks like it should be wide open in the middle, but this tactic is able to maintain 50% possession and score just buckets of goals. So let's take a look at the tactic and some of the instructions that go along with some of these players and what makes it special. So I think the first thing you'll see is that obviously it is high press, but in addition to being high press and set to much more often, it also is getting stuck in. So those front 3 and these wingers operate as this kind of front 5 press on the back line and on the fullbacks to create mega turnovers and tons of goals. So that's something to watch out for if you give this tactic a go. So that's first thing first. So you will pile up some yellow cards, you will get some suspensions, but Porridge assures me that it's worth it and the results bear that out. The other thing that's interesting is it is distributing to fullbacks rather than to center backs. And so when it does play out of the back, it's doing so wide, which is really important in a tactic like this. You don't have central midfielders for your defenders to kind of work through the press with, you know, a pass to a DM who then plays it to a CM. Instead, you're going to get smothered in the middle if you play out of the back through those center backs. So he plays it out back through the fullbacks, which makes so much sense to me because then they can link up with the winger and then the winger can quick transition up into the strikers. It's a beautiful way to set up the distribution here on this tactic and something that Porridge should really be commended for. And if we look at the other in possession instructions, he is telling those fullbacks to underlap a little bit to kind of keep things compact, and it helps them join into the defense there in the midfield. So much higher tempo. Those wingers and strikers are told to run at the defense. And other than that, it's a pretty standard tactic, playing out of defense, pass into space. He's not showing a preference for early crosses or work ball into the box, which I think works pretty well in this tactic. And he's playing it on a balanced mentality. 100+ goals on a balanced mentality is something that really should kind of perk your ears up here as well with this. So let's take another look to make sure there's not any interesting things here. And there is, right? Tackle harder and pass shorter to encourage these advanced forwards to interplay with the target forward and with the wingers and to make sure that they really get aggressive on that press. The wingers are shoot from less often. This winger's on attack. So this is a weird kind of like hedge that Porridge has set up here. It's on attack, right? But the other winger's on support, but has cross from byline. So when he does have the ball, this winger is going to get deep. So it's kind of like a makeshift winger attack as well, but someone who defensively will maintain a little bit better shape when necessary. This target forward also is going to drop pretty deep on defense out of necessity, but that's just something else to take a look at. The DLP in the middle is a role that you could change. You could play a ball winner here. You could play an anchor, but the DLP is what Porridge prefers and does have tackle harder as well. You'll see tackle harder and get stuck in all over the place on these instructions. The fullbacks don't have a lot of instruction. They're just meant to be supporting players that kind of stick in and around this high area to help fill in that midfield. And they also are tackling harder, marking tighter, right? This is just where the tactic is going. Now, he doesn't have tackle harder on those center backs, which is pretty important, but he is telling them to stay wider, and that makes sense because those fullbacks are going to kind of be in the midfield just a little bit more than normal out of necessity. So that's the tactic. I think it's really impressive, personally. I think it's set up in some really smart ways, and Porridge is someone that I've been discussing tactics with for over 2 FM cycles right now, and I really trust his opinions on some of his outputs, and this is a tactic that I think is kind of a work of art for kind of breaking down the match engine with these 3 strikers. And again, I keep saying this, but when we look deeper into the results, you'll see exactly what I mean. This first highlight starts from a throw-in. Now, it's a high throw-in, so it's not going to be the actual set-piece routine. Players are going to be playing in their reasonably preferred positions once this highlight begins. So we've got HatePorridge throwing it into Malinovsky. Remember, Malinovsky in the tactic right now is playing the right advanced forward, Zapata as the target forward. So that's just something to remember. Now, Coop Miners here is the DLP. HatePorridge right now is the fullback. So this fullback on support with no real instructions isn't going to dive deep, which I think is also important because it does mean the winger is somewhere here, right? Where's the winger? Zappacosta. Zappacosta in this game is playing right midfield, and you can kind of see his positioning isn't waiting necessarily on the line. He does have a little bit more of a free role to kind of tuck inside and help make up the numbers as well. So let's continue the highlight here. You'll see HatePorridge play it into space. Now, Zappacosta was there, and so was Malinovsky, who ran onto the ball in the end. But remember, Malinovsky has that pass shorter option, so that's going to encourage things like cutbacks and like these low crosses, which the tactic is also set up to use. And you can already see Zappacosta is ball side of both of these defenders. Hoyland, who is playing, maybe Hoyland is in? Oh, Hoyland is the left advanced forward in this game. Muriel did not play. And Zappacosta is going to be ball side of both of these defenders. And the short pass from Malinovsky comes in. Zappacosta finishes it at the near post. It is deflected, but it goes over the line. And this was in the cup final, too. The Italian Cup goes to Atalanta over Inter Milan in the finals. So a trophy, too, in the first year here for this tactic. On this highlight, you're going to see Muriel, the left advanced forward, kind of pull the ball through the middle of the field and run with it for a little bit. And if you remember, run at defense is one of the instructions here on this tactic as well. And in the end, you'll see the power of how some of these tactics with 3 strikers really punish small players on the back post. Now, this is a game in which Atalanta got a 4-1 win on the road against Napoli, but I will say Napoli did have a red card in this game, so they are a man down for this highlight, but I just wanted to once again highlight here, Mario Rui is a 5'7" left back, and so when this ball finally does get sprayed out to Lookman, who's the left-sided midfielder in this tactic today, that Muriel was able to find, he's able to aim across at the back post. Malinovsky isn't exactly huge, but it's easy to take advantage with those 3 strikers sometimes on those short fullbacks on the back post. Is something to kind of look out for if you're thinking about your tactics, and a good way to sometimes aim crosses at the far post to really kind of generate those mismatches. But this highlight kind of showed you that as well. So it is a big road win against Napoli, but again, red card aided. All 4 of the Atalanta goals came after the red card. So that is something to consider. So, oh, no, they didn't. There's a Zapata goal. Never mind. I'm just wrong. There's the Malinovsky goal. Okay, they were already up by 2 before the red card happened, and it's a big road win against Napoli. All right, so we're going to start this highlight in a quick offensive end to highlight, but it's actually going to not lead to a goal, and instead long distribution by their goalie, and then you'll kind of see what happens after that. So the things I want you to pay attention to this highlight is how isolated the Napoli striker is, and that's because of how offensive this tactic is and how deep the strikers push the back line, because then the midfielders move back with the back line too, and it really isolates their striker and gives the rest of your team then time to catch up and execute a press in the middle of the field midfield despite not having midfielders. So let's take a look at this highlight and see what happens. So Muriel lays it off for Lookman here, takes a shot, it's deflected, and then nowhere to go from the central defender because of how many players are there. Raspadori is trapped between a CM, the DM, and one of the center backs. Lays it off for Kvaratskhelia. And then from there, you'll see right now, Lookman now, because of the isolated play of Raspadori, has time to get back into this play, use that work rate and that high press mentality to win the ball back. Right there, he steps in front of a bad loose pass, and then easy combination play by all three strikers to lead to the goal. The target forward Zapata, sitting a little bit deeper, plays it to Malinovsky, who then makes a beautiful defense slicing pass to Muriel, and it's a goal. So it's illustrating a couple things in this tactic, how powerful the three strikers are when they do get the ball in transition at finding the passing angles necessary to score goals, and how the strikers pushing back the back line means that the opposing striker and attackers get kind of isolated from their midfielders, who are also driven back by the defenders dropping so deep. So something to think about as you're developing your tactics, how that kind of interplay impacts what you'll see in your highlights, but something that I thought was really impressive here in this road win against Napoli as well. So that's all the highlights. Let's take a look at the results and see really why this tactic is so powerful and where some of the goals are coming from. 91 points on the season with Atalanta's squad, especially playing wingers when it's really just Boga and Lookman and a bunch of fullbacks that can play the winger position. Very, very impressive result here, especially Malinovsky pushed into striker duty, Rasmus Højlund having to play striker a lot as well. So there is, not the best personnel for this tactic necessarily, and it means that the team isn't using some of its incredible midfielders, because really it's just room for one, and that's going to be Koopmeiners most of the time, sometimes like Martin de Roon as well, but there's a lot of midfielders then on the bench that are never seeing play, so it doesn't necessarily make the best use of the personnel, yet still is able to put up 91 points and a plus 77 goal difference, which I believe is the highest on the channel so far this year. So Porridge really should be commended for the result that they've put together here. Now you'll see Muriel and Zappacosta first and third in goals, which is ridiculous. Malinovsky 18 assists, and I'll tell you right now, they were not set piece assists. They only scored 4 corners in the league this season. Malinovsky takes the corners, but he's getting those assists from open play, and he had 22 in all competitions. So before we take a look at more of the individual stats, take a look at the table a little more in depth. Only 5 losses on the season for Atalanta, and I apologize, I misspoke earlier. It's 115 goals, not 117. I think I got tricked by the 77 goal difference there, but either way, just a ridiculous output and almost 50 more than the next highest team. So just very incredible there. Only allowed 38 goals. That's only a goal a game in the league as well. So pretty decent defense. And when you pair with that extremely powerful offense, you can see why I was excited to share this tactic with you today. If we take a look at the squad and some of the statistics here as well, right now it's sorted by position, but let's go ahead and sort it by appearances, and you'll see that Duvan Zapata, Luis Muriel both scored 32 goals. The XG on Luis Muriel at 34 is just absurd. That's an extremely high number. Malinovsky chipping in 22 goals and 20 assists. Lookman from that left midfield position also scoring 11 goals and 10 assists as a left midfielder is incredible. So where did the assists come from if they weren't coming from the strikers to each other? They're coming from Lookman. They're coming from Jeremy Boga, who also played a wide midfield role in this tactic as well. They're coming from Zappacosta, who featured as the right midfielder a lot, right? These game balls are coming through the offensive 5. They're not coming through those fullbacks, which is something that I think is really important to remember, is they are on support. They are not told to overlap. They're not told to drive forward. So they're not going to be as big of a part as the offensive output, but instead you see Koopmeiners chip in with 6 assists as well. So just an extremely powerful tactic, and one that I've been really excited to share ever since Porridge passed it down the line. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you have, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and there'll be more videos like this in the future, potentially some more user submissions as well. So if you have a tactic that you really enjoy, you think it's extremely powerful, share your test result in the Discord, and your tactic might also be chosen to be featured on the channel. So again, like, comment, and subscribe to the video. Join that Discord server and download the tactic either there or in our Dropbox folder. I hopefully will see you too. Sign up for the Patreon as well. But until then, we'll be back next week with test number 11. Take it easy. Bye.